Yeah, good day everyone. Meanwhile, Zerobot, and today we'll be talking about Laravel response. So I was working on an API project recently, and I have to be duplicating something like this response here, this one, this guy, and this. Another one is here. So I have to be duplicating it like that, which I don't want. If the controller is more than this, I'll have to be doing that consistently. So how do I do this? How do I come about this? So let's create a new folder in our HTTP that will handle responses. Then a class. I can say, okay, since my response will be returning this, will be returning API responses, I can actually come here and create a new file called API response.php. Then let me generate a class for my response. Sorry. So yeah, I've generated the class for my response, and the response should implement the responsible interface. You should note this guy is imported here. So I'm to implement the to response function and method to function to response. We have access to the request, and we are to return. This is what we want to return. We want to return something like this here. So let me copy this and paste it here. We have to return something like this, and meanwhile when we construct this guy, public function construct here. When we construct, we want to have the message, this message. We want to have a message, so I can just object it like this. In fact, private string variable message here, so I can access the message here. This is how my response will look like, right? So I can say this should be variable this message, the message property, or the message attribute. Here the message attribute for this object. So I'll be able to access it like this. Then, okay, I don't want this guy to be like this. I just need the data. So my response will be something like, let me create a new JSON file. JSON. So my response should be something like success is true, and message is your account has been updated. Then data should be an object or an array. Data can be an object or an array, which is something like this. I can have ID, I can have ID of 1, I can have name of AY0bug. So this should be my response, an instance or a sample of my response. And at the same time, I can have an array. I can have this guy to be an array. So yeah, so what are we going to do? Let me bring this. Okay, I don't need to bring that. I want to be able to change this guy. Should I just say Boolean status here? Boolean status. This is private too. Then I can say variable this status. Then the data, you should be able to access data here. Private makes the data is null by default. So I can have data, should be this data. Then I can, okay, I have the response. Let me just say it should be response data. So I can say this should be response data and this should be response data too. So the second parameter for this response function or method, it's a function, should be the status code. Okay, our parameters are not getting too long, so integer status code default is 200. So I can say status code. Then this is getting too long, so we have to optimize it somehow. But if you want to use it now, you can just come here and say you can come to this auth guy, this auth controller, and say return API response. API response. The first parameter is sorry, let me import that. Return a new API response, a new object, and a new instance of the API response. So our first parameter is the status. So let's do something. Is it the status? Yeah, it's the status. It's a boolean, so the status for this guy is true. Then the second parameter is the message. The second parameter is the message. Then the third parameter is the data. This is the data we are sending. These are the data we are sending. So let me bring this guy up here and put variable data. Then as the third parameter, what else? The status code is 200. This should be create and sign up. This should be 201. So this should be response. HTTP created. Then let's just import our response here. HTTP response. This is it. So now, is that it? No, sorry. So this is it. It is imported and is working now. Let me remove this one since you are not using it. So this is how it should be. So do I really have to set all these guys, this particular one and the status code? I should be able to, and even this data should not be required like that. Maybe we should have a better way to do this. So what if it's failure? Do I have to always come here and say HTTP unprocessed entity, unprocessable entity? So do I have to do that every time? You should be able to set a default value like that. So what do? Let's, instead of passing these guys in the construct method, let's just do something like the setter. Like the setter for each case, for a success case and a failure case, we have a setter. So let's start by creating a private bool status, private string variable message, private mixed variable data, and do I need the status code? Yes, private integer status code. So I can remove these guys from here. Let me just comment this construct method out. So now we want two different methods: the failure method and the success method. So how do we go about that? Let's create the success method first. Public function success. This guy should receive the parameter of message, so we can have a string message. Then the data can be mixed. It can be an object, it can be an array, it can even be a string. So mixed variable data, the default value should be null. Then the integer for status code. Status code will be integer, should have a default value so this status code should have a default value for success, which is HTTP OK. So I can say response HTTP OK. That's what I want to do. Let me import this. So I'm importing this one. Illuminate HTTP response. So in this guy now, we only have to set this message if we are not sending the data. Since these two guys are having their null value, so I should just say variable this status is variable status code. Variable this data is data. Then variable this message should be variable message. Should be variable message. Okay. Then I think we are missing this out. Yeah, the status. Status code is different from status, so I should set this to the status code. Then this should be status underscore code, I think, for the best practice. I'm not sure. If you think I'm doing it in the wrong way, you can just come to mind here. So yeah, we've done the status code. Then we shouldn't omit this guy. For success, the status is true. Then you can say variable this status is true. So after setting all these attributes, return variable this. Return this object back to where it is being called. Then we can actually copy this and say for failure. Then we have a message, we have a data, we have a. Then this should be HTTP unprocessable entity. So we have this status should be false. Status should be false. Message here, data and status code. Do we actually need data for this? We don't, but let's leave it like that. Then, okay, this should be status underscore code. I think we are good to go. We can actually remove this guy now. So in my controller, I should do something like this. Variable response is new API response. Then this guy should return my variable response success. What's my first parameter? I think it's the message, so I don't need this guy. And I'm good like this. This is actually sign up, so this should be HTTP created. HTTP created. HTTP created, yeah. So I can remove this guy. So do I still have to copy this guy and come like this? Let's do that here. Okay. This is HTTP okay for login. Then data. This is actually my message. So let me bring this here. And these are my data. Can change this to variable data. Okay. So it still doesn't have any sense if I have to initiate a new, if I have to create a new API response object every time. Since my project is an API project, since this controller is working with an API, I can actually come here and say my construct method should inject this guy. API response, variable response. Let's do something like private. Yeah, I think we are cool. Are we? Let's just try. So, okay, before we go through this, let's test our project if you are not lost anywhere. So let me bring this here. Come in. Let me bring this here, this postman. Okay. So let's try signing up. Let's try signing up. So let's send this request. And why is it taking so much time? So yeah, it's processed our request and created our user. So this is what our response looks like. This is what the response looks like. Then for login, let's send. For login, we have the same thing. Okay, this should actually be maybe login credentials matched. So yeah, like I said the other time, it's not cool if I have to create a new instance of this guy every time. So I can actually do that here. Let me say private API response, variable response. Then I can remove this from here, but only to inject it. Then I'll say variable this response is variable response. So I have this now, right? Then I can come here and say variable this response should return success, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Okay, should I change this to public? Okay, there's a typographical error here. Okay, so I have this guy like this now. This is cool. For now, this is cool. So yeah, let's try creating a user again. If we are not running on any error, let's try the sign up endpoint, and here it is working. Let's do the same thing for login. Now for login, I don't need this guy since it is the default value, so I can just say variable this response. Then let's try login. We are on the same map. Okay, this guy is changed now. Okay, so I have this guy here too. Do I still have to write a construct for this guy, for this post controller? I don't think I have to do that. Let's do something. Let's do something. Since this API response is for API request, then I can make a new controller. I can make a new controller and call it my API controller. It will be an abstract controller. It will be an abstract controller. Then I can say this is my hot controller. I can copy all these guys, the construct and the response are an attribute. Put it here. So after putting that, I can come here and remove this guy from here, the response attribute and the construct. I'm having an error here already. Define chemical. Okay, so this should extend API controller. You should extend API controller. So I don't need this anymore. Likewise, this I don't need this anymore. I can just put API controller here. So now I'm done with this guy. So this guy is giving me an error. Okay, this create token method is not found for the guy for the object this guy is returning for us. Come in, let me check something. So better way we can handle this is, let's just say user find variable ID. No, you can say user find hot ID. That should work. Let's try. Still working, and our error is gone. And we can say user find variable. Let's just find by email. Where email is our request email. Then first will return an object for us. The first method will return an object for us. Okay, we are still on the right track. So yeah, this post controller, I'm not done here. Since I have my API controller, since this post controller extends my API controller, and in my API controller I have the response attribute, I can come to my post controller and say, yeah, so this is very easy. I can just come here and return variable this response and say, okay, posts retrieved. Then this post here is my user's post. So I can remove this guy. Likewise this. I can just come here and This is my message. This is actually success. And this is my message. This is success too. Post successfully created. And my data is post. My status code is created. So I can remove these guys. Any error? Okay, expected. Let's remove this guy. Error. Okay, now I have the same thing here. Just copy this. Put it here. Then my message is post successfully retrieved. Then my data is variable post, and this is okay by default. I can remove it and just come. Let's remove this guy too. So yeah, let's check something. The first thing here is to create a post. Let's submit this post. Unauthenticated. Okay, let's copy our URL here. Sorry, our token, our login token. But let's send the login request again first. Then copy the token. Use it as the header here. Okay, post retrieved. Then our data is an empty array. Then the second request is a post request to create our post. This is the body data, the post data. So when I sent this, let me update my header. So when I send this, I have something more meaningful. So all my API, my responses are in the same format: the success, the message, and the data. Success, message, and the data. Then I can get my post. What's the idea of this one? This is 2. So I can get my post here. I don't think I really need this, but I'll just put it. Okay. Yes, I have a post. So this is typically a way we can handle this. I'm not sure if this is the best way, but I think this is more better. So yeah, another thing I think we should look into is this, guys. These strings. This message is rather. This is another one. Okay, I didn't undo this one, so let's come. Since this is failure, let's just come and say failure. I'm not sending any data. We're only sending a message: incorrect login details. So I can remove these guys too. This should make our code more readable and short. Okay. So I have this now. Let's try something. This is my login endpoint. Let me change the password to maybe 1 at the end. Very good. Okay, I don't want this data to be sent. So let me come here and say, okay, let me remove the data from here and say if variable this data, like if the user sent data to us, if this guy is not null and is not null here, then we can say variable response data attribute is this data here. So let's send that again. Okay. Then let's move this. Yeah, so we're on the right track. So yeah, I want us to undo this guy. These messages. So according to Laravel best practice I saw on GitHub, we should actually come and create our messages. Something like this. You would have seen something like this on your Laravel applications. So the messages are being done here. So let me just create a new file called messages.php and then return an array. An array of my key. So the first thing I have here is the account created or user created. So I can just come here and say user created, and the account has been successfully created. Let me cut it from there, put it here. Okay, so now instead of me writing plain text here, I can just come here and say do the double underscore like this, then curly braces, and message and okay, the message file name, our file name, and the key. It should be messages, I think. Let me check. Okay, messages dot user created. Yes, user created. So yeah, user created. We get here now. Yeah, we need to terminate this. Okay, so let me try creating a new user here. But before then, let me delete the one in my database. Okay, I've deleted it, so I can proceed. User, your account has been successfully created. It's still working. Let me change something here. Thanks for joining us. So let me create the account. Let me delete the account in my database again and send the request. Thanks for joining us. So we can do this in this guy too. I can come here and say login success. Then this should be like this. Messages.login success. So I'll drop another video talking more about these guys. But for today, I'm talking about this response, not this one. Then another message of login field. Incorrect login details. Okay, login credentials. Okay. So I can come here and say messages. That's login field. So yeah, we come to post controller. Okay. So the first message I want to create here is the post retrieved. Post retrieved message. So I can say, sorry, this is it. So I'm using this for two cases. So I can come here and say messages.post retrieved. I can use the same guy here. Post retrieved, then a post created. The post created. So let me cut this. Come here and say post created. Okay. Just remove this guy and paste this one. Okay. So now I can come here and say messages.post created. So let me delete the account in our database. Then create a new one. Yeah, so I have this. Let me try to log in endpoint. Perfectly working. The post endpoint. I need to change my authentication header. Post successfully retrieved. I don't have a post for that user yet. For that particular user. So I've created a new post now. I can get the post here. Yeah. So this is all my posts. Then I'm trying to get a post by ID here. So the ID of this guy is theory. Let me paste my token here. So I'm finding the post theory. Then yeah, we are good to go. That's the end of our video tutorial of our today's lesson. So in our next tutorial, I'll be talking more about this guy or something else. And if you'll be interested, I'll be doing a code review soon. I'll be doing more of code review. And if you are interested, you can send me a message. I can review your code and post it on our channel, on this particular channel. Thank you for joining us.